Meeting to order. For our moment of silence this morning, I would like us all to try to have an extra emphasis on remembering Officer Paul M. Strand, Officer Michael Rouge, and Firefighter Adam Finseth, to remember them and to pray for the families, friends, and the brothers and sisters in uniform who will continue to serve us all. Please, if you can, please stand and join me in a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is the approval of the regular meeting proposed agenda. I would entertain a motion at this time. To that effect.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Janlewski motions.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Gray seconds. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item up on the agenda will be our open forum. Is there anyone signed up for open forum this morning?
Yes, Chair, we have one person signed up. That is Brett Collier of Big Lake, speaking on election integrity.
Good morning, Brett.
Good morning. Brett Collier, Big Lake. Today I wanted to talk to you about election fraud. I recently read a 32-page report that was written detailing election fraud that took place in Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Michigan. While this report does not specifically address Minnesota, I have no doubt that similar fraud has been committed in our state. Now, don't tell me that while there may be instances of fraud in other states, that our beautiful state of Minnesota is immune to these acts. That's laughable. Elections are conducted by humans, and there are humans of low morals in all states, in every walk of life, so one had best take note. In these 5 states, there are documented instances of how more votes were cast than there were registered voters. How can that be? The report details instances of how poll watchers were prohibited from witnessing the vote count, if not prohibited, kept at such distances they couldn't see anything. Numerous instances when chain of custody was broken. Computer files missing or corrupt, making the tally uncertifiable. Signature verification not performed, if not simply missing, but the ballots were counted anyway. Seals broken, memory cards removed from machines, ballot images destroyed. Absentee ballots collected sometimes too early, sometimes too late. Some were never folded, meaning that they were never placed in the return envelope and delivered through the proper channels. Ballot trafficking, where there is video evidence of certain individuals making an average of 23 trips to a drop box, depositing multiple ballots, many occurring between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. Absentee ballots sent to fraudulent addresses and many other errors. As you are aware, I have already submitted a number of election complaints to the county attorney, who after months of slow walking had responded with weekly written denials of any wrongdoing. And when I followed up to point out how the county attorney's response arguments still don't address the issues, I'm told that the matter's closed. Before the end of the day, the election fraud report, of which I referenced, will be in all of your inboxes for your information. P.S. I assume you've all read my latest letter to the editor in the Patriot regarding driver's licenses for all, and the oath that we as election judges are supposed to take. In short, thanks to our legislature, carrying a Minnesota driver's license no longer verifies that you are a U.S. citizen. We as election judges, include the individuals that you have in this building assisting in early voting, are required to accept a Minnesota driver's license when registering a new voter, and will then give that person a ballot to vote, taking the completed ballot and shuffling it in with the rest of the ballots before citizenship is verified, making it impossible for that ballot to be removed if the person comes back as not a citizen. These judges, knowing this, and have yet apparently signed their oath stating how they diligently endeavor to prevent fraud and deceit. Violating this oath is a misdemeanor under Minnesota Statute 204.26. Election integrity has been lost. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it for open forum? Okay. The next item on the agenda will be the consent agenda. I'm not aware of any changes or modifications to the consent agenda this morning. So at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Philby and Commissioner Gray, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is our announcements and legislative updates. Mr. Messel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Just a couple quick announcements regarding activities. I did note beforehand we may shift the workshop schedule a little bit to accommodate guests, so just ask that the board and the public who are in audience here be aware of that. Second of all is just to note the AMC Legislative Conference coming up this week. I know many of you are heading down for that, and your staff will be down there as well covering some of those activities. We may or may not have meetings with our area legislators that are set up. Typically, they're not one county, one meeting with representatives. They're typically also focused on AMC issues versus individual county issues. But we will have our fact sheets available as staff in case we do get the opportunity to talk specifically about our high priorities. Also thought at this time we should discuss a little bit of the ongoing legislative issues. First of all, there's been some discussion about sanctuary status for the state. AMC is taking the lead on that for us, and they've opined that they do not think that that will have a lot of legs this year, given that even some of the Democratic leadership thinks there's problems with the particular approach. But we are tracking that in particular. Second of all, with respect to our individual legislation, our highest priority remains to continue to look at the North Star issue. I'm pleased to tell you that the Met Council and MnDOT have been in conversation with us at a staff level, and there may or may not be a legislative solution that they're going to put forward. But at this point, we don't have to take any action. We are not funding North Star. They're aware of that, and we won't until it is considered equitable in some form or fashion. So I will keep you updated on that as well. With that, I thought also we should just have an open conversation a little bit about legislative activities, anything that you would like us to emphasize this week while we're down there, other than our priorities. I know Representative Novotny's discussed with us his possible introduction of a bill, but I haven't seen it jacketed yet. So with that, I'll stand for any questions the board may have.
Didn't have any comments?
Okay. And then on a lighter note, Keisha thought we should share with you a little bit of activity, thanks to Commissioner Felber, who braved the weather and came out, but I didn't see the tutu on you, so I'm hoping next year we can get that get that added. So Keisha, you want to highlight for us?
I get cold.
Now, oh yeah, there's the good photo. So now I have been told that there are a couple of county employees who don't like to jump into water, but might consider next year doing this again if they can run in. So we're going to definitely make an effort to keep it like it was this year, where you run in from the shore, because maybe we can add to our team. But Keisha, how much were we able to raise?
$517 was what we raised for the Three Rivers Community Fund. And then in whole, the last number I saw was around 35.7 for the whole entire United Way, like all of the nonprofits. So they were just short of their, or no, yeah, they're just about 1,200 short of their $40,000 goal.
Perfect. All right, and then Kath is going to jump in here because you can do it better than me. Go ahead. 30th anniversary. No, go ahead. Come on, you got to help me out here. Of? What is it? All right, Bonnie, you got to tell us now.
The GFOA.
Okay, all right, I'll do it. So Diane's not here, so we're going to do the award, but we didn't get it packaged yet because we usually have the plaque. We are now 30 years in the running for winning the Government Finance Officers of America Award for accounting excellence in our annual comprehensive financial reports. So 30 years in a row, the accounting staff and the auditor treasurer staff in Sherburne County have prepared what is considered to be the best standard for basically your annual audit and your annual report in financial accounting. So congratulations to the staff. Bonnie's here. I think we should congratulate her appropriately.
That's it? Okay, thank you for all of that. The regular agenda at 5.1, consider approval of amendments to the Juvenile Rule 20 contracts.
Good morning, Commissioners. So
Morning.
happy to follow that video.
You look good.
Thank you.
Explanation mark.
So I just wanted to give you a really brief background of the Rule 20 request here. So we've been working, Community Corrections has been working with two agencies since 2016. They came to the department this year asking for an increase. We haven't had a request from them since 2016. So they're asking to increase their hourly rate from $100 to $150, and then also capping their evaluations from $2,000 to $2,500. We will be addressing this rate increase in our 2025 budget, but I wanted to let you know that initially with the conversation, I tried to persuade them to wait until the 2025 budget, and one of the agencies decided to give a 30-day notice. So that is why I'm here today, to ask the board to approve this increase this year, and again, I'll address it in 2025.
So we do have sufficient carryover funds from the funding for this year, so there's not a request to amend the budget. It's not a significant dollar amount, but I did want to highlight to you, it is a trend we're seeing. If you'll recall, we've already had another attorney that works on court-appointed cases that came in at demanding $150 an hour. The other 4 contracts are settled at $100 an hour, but I don't expect that's going to last through this year, but not next year. So that inflationary pressure is showing up in all kinds of ways.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the current juvenile Rule 20 contracts to increase the hourly rate from $100 to $150 and increase the evaluation cap from $2,000 to $2,500 as recommended.
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Philby motions, Commissioner Danilowski seconds. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, now with us moving that up to the $150, will the firm that put in will they stay with us now?
I did check with the supervisor, and she thought that if we came back to that firm, they would agree to stay with us.
And Mr. Chair, and it seems just by your notes that we're low with that 150, so
Correct. I think what they charge is $175 to $200 in other assessments, so they're still at $150. They're charging us less than they normally would with other clients.
So, yeah, just obviously, Corey, you'll keep a finger on the pulse to make sure that we have these services available and pay accordingly.
Absolutely.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda at 5.2 is consider approval of the Health and Human Services Public Health Division Personnel and Restructuring Requests. Good
And
morning.
just a reminder for the board that we had this in workshop at a previous board meeting. I did ask Nicole, and she's going to clarify for you the total FTE implication here is 3.9. It's 3 positions plus 3 other positions that would get partial increases. And so there was a little confusion in that. It read almost like 6 positions, and that's not what was presented in the workshop, and it's not what's being requested. So Nicole will go over those specifically. And then the last note, she'll emphasize as well that none of these are levy funded. And in fact, there's a little bit of levy savings by the restructuring.
All right, good morning, Mr. Chair and Board. As we discussed on February 6th, Public Health has 3 new funding sources, which really sparked our conversations for these personnel requests. 3 new positions full-time, 3 increases for current employees or positions to make them close to full-time or full-time, and then 1 reclassification to help us restructure our division to be a little more accountable for our grant reporting. There is no cost to the levy with these grant funds, and they are long-term funding sources at this point. The one that is shortest is the Promising Practices Award, which is through 2028. And that is also one of our least expensive positions, which would be the community health worker.
At this point, we'd entertain a motion in respect to this.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to make that approval.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Danilowski, motions, Commissioner Gray seconds. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, just clarification for me. I thought when we went through the workshop, the net increase was 2.5 FTEs rather than 3.9. Was I mistaken on that?
Yeah, so 3.9.
It was 3.9 on that, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was my error, Andrew. I just guessed last night. I was trying to remember.
Okay.
So I knew it wasn't 6, but I was trying to, pull it last night and didn't have access to my computer. So that was my error on the 2.5, so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were consistent with what was discussed at the workshop.
Yeah, and I'll resend those slides out too, so you have them for your files, the slide deck. So, and again, I apologize for that, just winging it.
No problem. I guess we talked about this at the workshop last time. I think the work done on this is well done, and was well done at the time. So I'm inclined to approve this. I guess my general comment on personnel additions outside of the budget process is I just want to be careful with those, because there's other tails, even if they're not levy funded. There's in my view, other tails that go along with that. HR support, IT support, just a number of things. So I just want us to be cognizant of that outside of the budget piece. But that's not really a comment on this request, because I thought this request was very well done.
Thank you.
Okay.
And if I could add, I just, I want to make clear, I'm in agreement with, Commissioner Halls. If we can budget these and have them be well-planned, that's, the goal. Sometimes you say you're an exceptional organization because there's exceptions, and I guess this might be one of them. But we do try to look, and I'll try to be more precise in presenting the larger assessment. So it's not just the FTE position, it's what do we do with the building. And in this case, Nicole and I had that conversation, and there was a little slide deck that addressed a lot of these positions will not require offices, or they'll be hotel-based offices. The IT support, Brian works with the HHS department, and the one-time costs are charged against their fund. And then the ongoing costs will be budgeted. So there is, as you said, a coattail to that. Obviously, at some point, you have HR demands, as you said, administrative demands, payroll demands. But we try to track those as well and flag them to you. But it can also be, additions over time of little bits become a lot. And so we do have to track that. The other thing I will note, and you're going to hear a little bit about this later when it comes to funding positions versus programs, while there's a natural default to keep those positions, when the grant funding runs out, the board needs to then take an affirmative decision. Do we continue the position, and how do we continue it? So in this case, Nicole is flagging what we think is long-term funding, but we want to make very clear that there are times that doesn't continue. So for example, ARPA is currently funding 6.5 positions in HHS, right, Dan? Did I get that right? And 5 of those are scheduled to go away. So we'll have to have those conversations as those funding streams change or modify.
And Mr. Chair, if I remember correctly, a lot of the discussion in these areas, we look at attrition as a way to reduce when needed.
Yeah, when we do FTE reductions, it's typically done by attrition. More likely than not, if the staff is able to do so, we often will absorb into other open positions. So we keep the staffing even though their positions might be slightly different. I'd like to say that the organization shrinks over time, but historically that's probably not accurate. It's more like we absorb, but yes, if we have to, we attrit them out.
Well, if the needs shrank over time, we could probably accommodate that, but unfortunately, the needs don't shrink. over
Well,
time
and
in a
the
growing
population, I
county.
mean, again, we're a growing county. You look at some counties that are seeing population losses, they have the opposite challenge. So you're correct.
And to continue to expect a lot more out of staff in a growing county is not a good idea on our part either, so.
Well, in public health, I mean, you guys had the workshop, and I think it was a great conversation. It is worthwhile thinking about any time we bring these types of outside funding opportunities. The first question is, can existing staff and existing programs absorb it? And you're going to see again today with housing, that's what we're proposing. So it's not necessarily new people, new programs. Second is, can that be direct assistance versus staffing? But again, there are people who deliver these programs. So case management takes somebody to do case management. And I think the secondary question to your point is how we manage that going forward and really have a comprehensive assessment of that. I do believe there are counties who have in certain cases said no to funding. And that can go back to the staff or to the state. So, at some point, you guys may say, no, we don't want to do X program. When it's mandated, it's much more difficult. And in this case, there's a lot of money coming from the federal and the state level. A lot of it's going into health and human services activities. We are seeing some in infrastructure, obviously, which is better. But yeah, I think we're dealing with a unique situation here, and I don't know how long it will be sustained at the funding we're seeing.
And Mr. Chair, one last comment. You had mentioned the word hotel. Could you clarify what that means when people aren't in the general public are thinking we're not housing them in a hotel?
Sure, I apologize. It's a industry word, and Corey's gone, so I'll pick on him. In certain areas of the building, we have not even cubicles. We might have an area where people who are normally in the field come in. They can either log onto a computer or they can put in their laptop and check it in. So they might be in here for half a day or a day out of 5 days, and then the other times they're in the field. So if you remember your tours from the probation department, there's a section there where there's about 8 seats. Our field officers, our probation officers who are out in the field, when they come in, they will sit there versus having a desk in an office that will be closed for 4 days out of the week. So HHS has similar situations, and that might be a bad word. I don't know, Nicole, what you guys use upstairs, so.
I don't think we've ever called it hotels, but I'm not sure we've called it anything else.
Yeah, they're really just I don't know if you, not even temporary workstations, because for morale and for identity, it's nice that somebody still has a place they call home in the building, but it doesn't have to be an 8x8 office with a closed door, so, yeah.
Yep, thank you for that clarification for the general public.
Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify one thing. I don't want to leave the impression, it's not like, I don't want to leave the impression that the county has not grown staff. That would be inaccurate. The county has grown staff considerably over the last several years. Some departments much faster than the population growth. And I think, Commissioner Phobie said it well at one point that there were some departments that had been under funded for a number of years. So there may have been some catch up, along with that. So I think that makes perfect sense. But I don't want to leave the impression that the staffing at the county hasn't grown with the county population growth. It has, and in some cases much faster than that. My concern and my caution is, we just have to manage that. There has to be a healthy tension there on how much we grow staffing versus realizing that we are a growing county, but there are there is a healthy tension there that I think needs to be watched closely. And I think, you know, Administrator Messelt and Dan do a good job of really trying to balance that. I just want to make sure that we're all supporting that as well.
Just, Mr. Chair, back to, generic to this RBA, just want to thank you for all the work on this. I recognize it was a heavy lift for you and the department, and to come to us with many of these positions that promote prevention, and that's going to pay off incrementally in the future and give a lot of littles a good, strong support. So, thank you.
I would like to mention here at the end, I guess, that I also share Commissioner Holtz's concern about growing our departments or growing our government in general at a faster rate than the population. That just is something we should be extremely concerned about, and I'm not in favor of it all. So I believe we've had discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Let's move on to approval of resolution number 022024-AD3129 to acquire property for County Road 83 Improvement Project.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about the County Road 83 project from County Road 43 to CASA 15 in Big Lake Township. It was originally constructed in 1977 and has a pavement rating of 45, which is a poor condition. So in order to improve the structural integrity and safety for the traveling public, we are requesting approval of the resolution to acquire property on the County Road 83 improvement project.
We entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Danilowski motions.
I'll second that.
Mr. Gray seconds. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I had one comment. 1977.
Correct.
I graduated in 76. Just to give you a visual of how old that road is.
That was grade school, correct?
I'm not trying to say how old I am, but, and it is there's a lot of growth happening out there, a lot of new housing developments that are going out along County Road 83. So it's probably a good time to get that road brought up to current safety standards.
Correct. Improvement of some horizontal curves and that kind of thing, as well as the structural integrity.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, then I will chirp in again. I am, as always, opposed to using taxpayer dollars to enter into this unequal acquisition, or I guess unequal bargaining with the members, with the citizens who own this property, to acquire property that we're not actually going to put lanes in. Having said that, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I am opposed. Motion carries. And then the next would be to approve Resolution 02024AD3130 to acquire property for County Road 65. Same thing.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Here to talk about the County Road 65 improvement project. That was originally constructed in 1975, and that pavement condition is actually in a near failure condition. We've been working over the last year to acquire property through a negotiation process, and we had 37 parcels, and when I had prepared this RBA, we had 5 remaining parcels. We received over the weekend 2 signed parcels. They're accepting 2 more, so we will be down to 1 parcel. We are requesting approval of resolution to acquire via eminent domain for the County Road 65 project from CASA 8 to Trunk Highway 10 in Haven Township.
To entertain a motion at this point.
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Gray,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Danilowski. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, so Dave, did you say that some of this has been settled?
Yep, we're down to one parcel.
Okay,
And the question on the parcel is not due to the road improvement. We're just negotiating right now. So they don't disagree that the pavement is in a failure condition and needs to be reconstructed. So that was not their concern.
okay. And how many parcels did you settle with on this?
We had 37 total parcels on the project. We received 2 over the weekend. I'm expecting, since it's the same property owner, we will have 2 more, so we'll have successfully negotiated with 36 of the 37 parcels.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And-
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, and this is all part of also the realignment and everything to Highway 10 as well?
This is the local county project right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
Not the
working through a
state.
few details for the intersection improvement project, this is a 2024, the improvement project will be 2025.
But it's all part of the process?
It's
and
all part of the process, yeah.
To get that road aligned and updated to where it needs to be. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, having had discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I am opposed. Motion carries. Our next item on our agenda will be review and accept the Auditor Treasurer's monthly report for January 2024.
So you actually get me today. Diane asked me
Okay.
to pinch hit, but somebody's going to help me out here if I get it wrong. So what you'll find is the report for January 20th, and you can see the trial balance looks very good. Basically, we've been able to, manage the funds. First month of the year is pretty basic and pretty simple. So there's no outliers that we wanted to highlight for you. Looking at 2023 property taxes, you can see we're running about 99.3% of the levy, which is just a little bit down, but we're down into the points, 0.2, 0.3. So I think that probably we'll see that be pretty solid again. The town road allotment you can see is also highlighted for you. So a slight increase, 10% from previous year. Diane's briefed you on election activity, so we'll let that go, and a little bit more on the special primary election, which has now been set for the 29th of February, if you didn't see that already. Moving on, just a couple other things. You can see the elections coming up, so very, very busy time. I think Diane's at the Mako conference, right? Yeah.
I don't think she's going to be able to go because of the.
Gotcha, because of the elections. So, but we do have our elected officers are going to be at the Mako conference this year, or this week as well. So with that, we can stand for any questions financially, but overall, just from a roadmap standpoint, without going into the attachments, things look pretty good. Closing out 2023 is also pretty solid. We've been in conversation with the auditors as well, and expect that'll proceed pretty smoothly.
Standing. Does anyone have any, I guess at this point, I would entertain a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Commissioner Holtz
I'll second.
and Commissioner Philby seconds. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, my only question, I think maybe I asked this last time, is just in our investments, that whole magic fund has performed so well. If you look at the history, I know we all got nervous during COVID when they didn't perform well for that blip, but just consider investing more funds in magic.
Okay. I'll flag that to Diane. I know she was looking at it. I'm assuming it just didn't get a lot of attention this last month, but we'll try to get back to you with additional information and see what the flexibility is. Some of the investments are maybe fungible here in the next quarter, so that might be a possibility.
Yeah, I saw Dan shaking his head. I know a few of the other boards I serve on, the interest rate has been just phenomenal over this last year, and to be able to use that money for supporting the services, so.
Yeah. Oh, you went too fast there. There you can see the magic fund there. So we've got quite a bit, 23 million, but with what's in Wells Fargo, if those are, something we can look at as well, we can sure do so.
Be great. That's all.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. The next will be to receive the American Rescue Plan update and consider recommended approvals and expenditures. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This week we have two potential expenses to discuss. The first is our 2024 cybersecurity insurance costs.
We did have a majority of these funds budgeted. However, with our workers' comp, which is not an eligible ARPA expense, we can move some money around. So cybersecurity would be paid out of ARPA, and we'd be able to move that savings into our workers' comp account. So looking for approval on our 2024 cybersecurity insurance cost by utilizing ARPA.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move approval.
Commissioner Philby,
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Commissioner Danilowski seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, none. Motion carries. We're down to Commissioner Correspondence Committee reports.
We have one more expense, Mr. Chair.
Is there?
Yep. Backing up to the Amazon.
Okay, sorry.
The second is a disaster recovery expense, and I'll let Brian talk about that project.
Okay.
Thank you, County Board and Board Chair. I'd like to talk to you about the backup to the Amazon cloud. So Sherburne County's infrastructure backup and recovery strategy follows industry standard 321, and that's 3 copies of our backup, at least 2 different medias, and 1 of those offsite. We do better in all of those areas than the minimal industry standard for an organization. What we're looking for is our second copy of our data and our backup on-site to move into the cloud. This will provide what we foresee as some cost savings because there are tapes and tape drives and infrastructure and labor time to transport that physical media to create that air gap. Amazon will give us that air gap so we can do it electronically. We can get that done faster and have the appropriate checks in place. So the $67,000 was to get that project going, and then costs across the next 3 years that we see for that item. So that is our request for ARPA.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. Entertain a motion at this point to approve.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Danilowski,
I'll second that.
Commissioner Gray seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Did I miss anything else?
Just, yeah, Dan, before you wrap up, we should just note a little bit of a, maybe beginning of the postmortem on ARPA. What are we down to now?
It fluctuates based on the expenses that are coming back, but about $100,000 left out of 19.8 million.
And so as we proceed through 24, what we'll be doing is looking at, you've allocated money for projects. If some come in under budget, then, you know, we'll have residual funds. We're developing kind of a strategy for you to decide on final allocations. And you'll hear a couple of those discussed, if not in workshop today, then in future discussions about where some of those ARPA dollars could go. But really been amazing to think that kind of funding has been managed, and we're down to that a little bit yet. And then down the road, Dad's going to share with you where we stand nationally in some of the activities that we've been doing. But suffice it to say, our program is much more complex than a lot of the county or state or city programs across the country.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, now
Now.
we're going to move on to Commissioner Correspondence Committee reports. Who would like to go first? Anyone? Commissioner Philby.
Thank you. So I participated in the Zimmerman Business Council. That's their form of their chamber right now. The next one is going to be all focused on 169 and 4. So just a heads up on that. The First Steps Joint Powers Board met, talks about our birth to 5 littles and home visits for those people. Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services met twice with leadership for that as we can continue to get ourselves on level ground. The Employee Resource Group Pride Alliance met that I'm a part of. Spent a number of days out at NACO, and I'm part of the Health Steering Committee. We had some interim resolutions that were passed. I want to say that almost every workshop I sat in had a component of artificial intelligence. And I just keep bringing that to this dais to say, I would encourage us not to fear it, but lean into it, because I think we're already using it for a number of things, but to continue leaning in and looking for resources out there for every department in AI. Participated in the immigration task force out there, sat in on an energy transition communities. Probably some of the best information was through the Rural Action Caucus. Tom Vilsack came and spoke with us about many different partnerships with renewable energy, right-sizing rural healthcare, things like that, and a veterans transportation program. Sat through a BEAD workshop, so broadband equity access deployment, and there's a lot of funding out there in that situation. Dan probably knows about it. Also connected, Dan and I are having a meeting with Starlink, the SpaceX broadband supplier, so Starlink, to see if there's any opportunities for us partnering with them in Sherburne or in rural Minnesota. It was a busy conference and it was good. Also had an AMC executive committee, met with the Sherburne multidisciplinary team and talked about a couple constituents. TRICAP finance team met, TRICAP board meeting we had, and the thing I want to highlight there is we are moving into the interview stage for our TRICAP executive director. And they're really working on their volunteer driver program. They've recognized TRICAP obviously provides our transportation in our counties, in 5 different counties, but their volunteer driver program has grown in leaps and bounds. We're finding that that's what people seem to prefer. We have about 55 drivers now. If you know of anyone that you think would make a great driver, have some time to do that, please connect them to TRICAP. And I believe that's it.
You're all looking at me? Your turn. It's my turn. On the 7th and 8th, I attended the AMC Drainage Conference up in Alexandria. I had never been to one before, but I basically learned that Sherburne County is not as extensive in drainage ditches as a lot of other counties. We still do a tremendous job. The biggest thing we learned up there was what I would classify as transparency, letting the people know early before we're making any adjustments to their ditches and stuff, that it's coming forward. Then I attended the 9th through the 14th with Lisa and Rayanne, Washington, D.C. The only one that I probably didn't attend, you guys didn't attend, was Agricultural and Rural Affairs. We passed a few agenda items in regards to that. Otherwise, I think we attended most of them, had some good tours. It was all a well-deserved conference, very long though. I think it was way too long. Then I did, that was about it. I did the legislative talk with Paul Novotny on February 7th also. That was informative in what he's trying to do on the legislative priorities for us this year. That's it.
Commissioner Tudlowski? Okay. Had the law library meeting on February 6th. February 7th, had the APO board meeting, followed by the APO Beltline workshop. APO is the area planning organization for the St. Cloud area, of which we are members because we do have a portion of Sherburne County that is in the St. Cloud area. February 9th to the 14th, attended the NACO conference as well, and basically concur with everything that Lisa talked about. My steering committee is the Community Economic and Workforce Development Steering Committee. That was a all-day meeting on Saturday from 9 to 4:30. A lot of good discussion was had on how to better do workforce development, affordable housing, did some addressing of looking at, is there a way to minimize some of the rules and regulations, do some across the country style permits and stuff, some of the discussion that came up that each area of the country has some of its own unique needs. But they're definitely looking at exploring what that would look like. And also had February 15th, our Sherburne County EDA meeting. And then also, I had a Zoom meeting for Family Resource Center, looking to put some family resource centers in Sherburne County. I'd like to explore possibly, is there any opportunity at some of the ARPA funding to help assist with that need that we're trying to establish? And also attended the Sherburne County Homegrown Workshop, which I found very, very interesting, very informative. Andrew and I attended that as well, amongst a good group of people from across Sherburne County. And I think we did a lot of learning. And also in our EDA, we approved going forward with developing a, we're going to develop from bottom up the housing study that we're going to do in the county. We decided that we wanted to do a full-on instead of just a refresh, which we figured that since COVID and stuff, things have changed so much that we need to be on top of what those changes are. And then also want to let everybody know, because I haven't heard it mentioned yet, and Lisa, pay attention because there's going to be cake. Mark your calendars, this Saturday, February 24th, from 10 to noon, there's a free event at the Sherburne County History Center to celebrate Sherburne County's 168th birthday. So we are turning 168 years old. So mark your calendars, there's going to be birthday cake, games, crafts, and all sorts of fun activities, so.
What times?
The time is February 24th from 10 o'clock to noon at the Sherburne History Center in Becker.
Okay,
And happy birthday, Sherburne County.
absolutely. Commissioner Hulse?
Yeah, so, let's see, after the last board meeting on Wednesday, we had our solid waste committee meeting. That was a good meeting, especially a follow-up after the discussions that we had at the last board meeting. There was good follow-up with that and some of the projects that we're trying to move forward with. On the 13th, I had a good deep dive discussion with Andrew and the Public Works team on park project budgeting and prioritization and how we do that, and some guide rails that they're putting in place as well. So I thought that was a very nice discussion. On the 15th, we did the EDA meeting as Commissioner Danielski mentioned, and then the workshop afterwards on helping to develop entrepreneurship, supporting entrepreneurs, job creators in Sherburne County, which I think is a key portion for that. Andrew and I worked on one or two constituent issues over the course of the last couple of weeks around some of the safety concerns on a couple of roads, and then also had some discussions with some of our elected representatives on my concerns over the push toward, as was mentioned by Commissioner Messelt, the sanctuary state status and the strains that would put on counties if that were to pass. And then finally, I just want to mention, because it became an object lesson for me, I've harped a bit about making sure that we are continually improving processes around the county and making sure that we're being as efficient as we can. And I had a great object lesson for that on Friday. It was not Sherburne County, but I received a call from one of our peer counties as an employer, and this has been one of the things I've harped on on an employment verification. And I was out of the office, and the individual from the county that will not be named asked for an employment value verification of when a former employee had left because of some work they're doing on. And I was out of the office. I said, well, I don't have my computer in front of me. I can't help you with it right now. And I said, just why don't you send me an email? As soon as I get in front of my computer, I'll get back with you. Well, I'm sorry, I can't send you an email. Why can't you send me an email? Well, it's not secure. I just need your phone number so that I can get a hold of you. Well, I'm sorry, I can't send you that. So I'll call you on Tuesday, and we'll see if we can catch it from your computer. I can't stress the lack of efficiency that involves, and the frustration it involves as an employer, just expecting to be able to just, catch me on a whim. So it emphasizes to me that we have to continually improve our processes, make things easier, because at the end of the day, what happened is this former employee of mine now had to wait, at least until sometime today for that paperwork to continue, because now it's just sitting and stalling, waiting on that information. So that's something that we have to continue to improve on. That's it.
That's it. Okay, then I'll go. On 2/7, I attended the NACO Public Safety online meeting. Although I did not go to the NACO conference, I anticipate that I'll be getting all of the information and slide decks and stuff will be sent to us later this week. And then after the AMC conference this week, I should be able to start reading them around Friday through early next week and catch up on that. I also sat in on the legislative meeting with Representative Botany, and I did sit with them and talk some more about legislative stuff at the Chamber of Commerce legislative update later in the week. I went to the Becker Families in Need meeting, and one of the things that kind of stuck in my head through the conversations there is that perhaps right now the thresholds for being eligible for aid may be set a little bit high due to inflation, because they were expressing how many people who were in the working poor class were simply not able to get any sort of assistance. So as much as I hate to think about spending money, this may be something that we need to look at down the line. On the positive side, Riverside Church will try to be making their Financial Peace University available to the public, which is a great way for people to learn how to do their budgeting. Ordinarily, it costs money, but they're going to try to make it available for free. 2/10, I went to the Polar Plunge. The team did a great job. It was a lot of fun. As I mentioned before, I went to the Chamber of Commerce Legislative Update Dinner. They had the most important part of that dinner was they had the leaders of both caucuses, Senator Aaron Murphy, Senator Mark Johnson, House Speaker Melissa Hortman, and House Minority Leader Lisa DeMuth up there, and they talked about things that they were looking at. Once again, the sanctuary state was not likely to pass. They did mention there was a great deal of opposition to the flag thing, which is over at the state right now. A lot of people aren't in favor of that. Both of those, I think, personally put a lot of extra funding on the counties that we don't need. The SRO bills are trying to go through, and one of the things that they did mention that I thought was interesting is that, lost my page here, they were asked if the Met Council governance reform would pass this session. All three of the four said yes, but Speaker Hortman said she didn't think so. So that's something that's of interest to us, partly because we still have the North Star issue to deal with. They did say it was going to be a short session, but it's worth noting that as of Friday the 18th, there are 550 new bills in the Senate and 440 in the House. I don't know how quite that equates to a short and efficient session, but yet that's what we're up to. I went to the Plan Advisory Commission on 2/15. We had several IUPs and an ordinance wording cleanup for commercial composting that was requested by Elk River Composting Company. All of that will be coming to us. 2/16, I went to the Energy Transition Advisory Committee, Emerging Issues Committee, which is a new committee for the Energy Transition Advisory Committee. We were focused primarily on the idea for gross operating revenues tax from the Minnesota Department of Revenue, which I know that our staff has been meeting with other counties and other jurisdictions, trying to figure out what makes sense for us. At that meeting, we reached a point where we realized it's kind of a conundrum where the state feels they need more feedback from us in order to keep moving ahead, and we feel like we need more input from them. So there's going to be continuing meetings on this subject. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's see here. Down. And then the last thing I'm going to cover, and I debated on this because I couldn't decide what I wanted to say. It's really taken up a lot of my time the last couple of days. As far as Sunday the 18th, the incident in Burnsville. And I wrote it down, which I don't usually do. I usually kind of go on the wing, but I wrote down what I wanted to say today because I want to make sure I get it right. We have another situation where a criminal with a history of violence and who was prohibited from possessing a firearm attacked and killed police officers, and in this case also a medic. I'm sad and I'm angry, not just because we lost 3 brave heroes to senseless violence, but also because of the way police have been treated in the country and in this state. There was a period after 1911 where the police were well supported and supplied, but for about the last 15 to 16 years, there has been a concerted effort by some in the political community to diminish public trust in the police and reduce penalties for criminals. I have sat in this room, for instance, and heard our Sherburne correctional officers and deputies referred to as stormtroopers, comparing them to the fascist shock troops of Germany in 1938. I find that extremely reprehensible. After a situation like this, all politicians will be talking about how they support the police. But a week from now, many of them will be back to promoting policies that hamper and endanger officers on the street. These policies are frequently referred to as bail and sentencing reform, police reform, demilitarizing the police, and use of force and warrant service reform. When strict sentencing is not followed, criminals are emboldened to commit more crime, and they are quickly out in the street to commit more crime. For instance, Sarah Elwood, a Minnesota woman who bought and illegally sold 47 firearms in May 2021, received an 18-month federal sentence in September 2022. Many of those guns were recovered at crime scenes. We don't know yet how the firearms in Sunday's interest were obtained, but straw purchases where an eligible buyer obtains the firearms for prohibited persons has been an increasingly common crime. It is supposed to be punishable by up to 15 years, but 5 years or less has been the standard in cases in the last 2 years in Minnesota, and I've watched a bunch of them come and go. In the name of demilitarizing the police, access to combat-tested military surplus vehicles and military surplus equipment has been limited at times, and there are still movements to recall them or prohibit police from buying other armored vehicles. There's also been a resistance to police having helmets and heavy protective vests that will protect them from rifle fire. All of these items should be at all times readily available to officers on the street for when it's needed. When the police have to knock before a high-risk warrant or in a situation where the suspect knows they are coming into the suspect's location, the suspect has an advantage to ambush and shoot the incoming officers. We need to promote policy that gives the advantage to the officers. If the public really wants to support the police and make your communities safer, you need to only vote for politicians that always support the police and not the criminals. And I would like to close with this quote from the Burnsville Police Chief, Tanya Schwartz. She said, "We go to work every day knowing that it's a possibility and we'll lose our life to protect yours. And we still show up. It's something you won't understand unless you do it." And with that, my comments for today are closed. I believe we are at a point where we are going to we're going to recess the regular meeting. Do we want to take a break before we open the ditch authority, or we're right on time for that, it looks like right now?
Yeah, we've got staff here, so we can do the ditch authority. if you'd
Okay,
like.
so we'll recess the regular meeting, and we will open our ditch authority meeting at this time.
PowerPoint first. Just go in chronological order. Yeah.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, fellow commissioners. Are there any questions regarding my written report?
May I interrupt for a second? Can we approve the agenda for the ditch authority first before we go to his report?
I'm sorry?
Can we approve the agenda for the ditch authority before we
Yes,
go
we need to do
to
that.
Mike's
You're
report?
correct, thank you. Can we approve the agenda for the ditch authority meeting?
So move.
Okay, and then Commissioner Halt seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
The focus of my report is on ditch 32. That's one I've talked about in several meetings. It's right on the east side of 169 by County Road 25 in Zimmerman. I've showed these pictures before. This is where we had that blockage. And as you can see, there's several trees growing over the top of the tile line, which was a contributing factor to its failure. There's several large trees. That's the, you can kind of see a space where the tile line is by looking at the tree line. This is looking north. Public Works, County Forces did the clearing. We have to clear the trees before we can do any work. We had a window to get this done. Since there's no snow, this is actually in the end of, right before Christmas. The best time to do this is ahead of time and in the winter, if you can. This is after they were done cutting trees. You can see how wide open it is now, and we have significant a path to do the work. You look in the top middle of the picture, you can see a sinkhole there. This is a sinkhole. You can see the water still running, but not as efficient as it could be. The landowner requested that we stockpile the larger wood, and we chipped all the brush. Just another picture. If you want to start the videos. You can see the water running. This is before we cleared the trees. This is a couple, 3 weeks later. When we were there clearing the trees, we opened it up so it could run more efficiently. As you can see, it's a pretty steady stream. The water was that backed up. This is January 26th. So it really hasn't slowed down at all.
Mitch, was the sinkhole what brought the issue to light?
Yes. That, and we had the blockage. This is February 14th. Still about the same flow.
So, Mr. Chair and Mike, so when you say the water was backed up, where was it backed up into? Like, was it pooling somewhere?
Where that sinkhole is probably about 2 miles downstream from where the ditch starts. It
Okay.
starts just west of County Road 19.
Okay.
I'm not sure, I can't remember the township road, but it's about 2 miles away. So that's where we are, as soon as road restrictions are off, we're gonna repair and replace the tile.
there anything else or any other comments?
Just a quick question. Do you have to clear the root systems for those trees that were right on top of the tile before you repair it?
Yes, when we were in there replacing the tile, we'll grub out all the stumps. And, it'll be hauled to an offsite. But yeah, all the roots and stumps will be removed when we replace the tile.
Outstanding.
Okay.
Any other information? All right, well, thank you for your report. And at this point, we will close the Ditch Authority meeting.
Do we need to, sorry, do we need to approve his report?
Yes, sorry, yes.
Move approval, Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Second?
thank you. And any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. That's passed. And then I believe we can close the Ditch Authority. Apparently, I need a break, so.
Thank you.
Can I suggest reconvening about 10:15? We'll start our discussion on housing and then stop when the attorney gets here for your second item. Okay?
That would be fantastic, yes.